All right. Okay, here we go. So, did you want to ask something? Did you want to ask the chart something?
Um,
Or do you just want to? Because it's going to be quite detailed. It's
yeah, well, I like the fact that it would be detailed. I think
okay.
just like
Sure.
where is my path leading me, maybe. Sorry, I didn't really have a question.
That's okay. Usually I get that. So, but bear in mind that, yeah, for me, I do a lot of details. But because of the time constraint too, I might read some for someone later as well. I'm not sure. They're not sure yet. So we'll see. We'll see what we can fit in an hour.
Okay, sounds good.
um, because I also don't want to take too long. Because I noticed that every time I do astrology, yeah, it's starting to, if it's too detailed, it's kind of like, it's just kind of they usually kind of get the point. But yeah. All right. So what I'm gonna do is, for the sake of the recording and the reading itself, let's see what we get here. Generally, what will happen is that the birth chart will reveal the dominant energies. It kind of might shift over time, but typically the dominant energies or the dominant symbolism and all that stuff that is in the birth chart will reveal the overall path that you kind of take, even if you've taken it and even if you haven't taken it, doesn't matter. I mean, when I say it, I mean people sometimes think path is like as if they have to get somewhere. I'm like, no, the destination is the journey is the destination, right? So, um, just it's more like the potential things, as Pam Gregory puts it, astrology is a language of probability. So anything literally can happen. Um, but that's also coincides with the choices we make. So, let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna share the screen. What do we have here? Is the one here? Yes. Okay. So, let's see. And of course, I don't usually read ahead of time because I have already pre-downloaded. You can see I didn't pre-download. The other ones came to me before through all the asteroids. Okay. So what I'm seeing here first is what we're going to go through is your past. This includes past parallel lives, earlier life as well. Okay. It is in the South Node in Libra. So the South Node is the one that signifies that or represents that in astrology, in a person's chart. It could be a person, could be anybody. Um, the South Node is right here. And so being in South Node, it just signifies that it's in Libra, in the eighth house here, shows me that you're used to being one of your greatest skills is diplomacy, being observant, weighing things through, being balanced, harmonious, that stuff. Um, it also means like an actual like inclusive approach to life. Particularly, it could be relationships. In this case, it's more about partners. It's in the eighth house, so shared income, taxes as well here. Anything transformative, metaphysical, taboo, you name it. The Scorpio energy is very much like that. So everything had to be kind of basically in control, but at the same time in a very sort of, I wouldn't say, it's not a judgment. It's just the way Libra is. It's pacifist, meaning like, if this is what you want, okay, sure, what you want. How can we how can we make this even for the both of us? Usually, it's all about evenness. Um, all the most of the time, the Libra also includes certain leadership positions that you might have gone through in the past or past parallel lives, where you were like some sort of like a commander, some sort of like, you were in charge of a military or a group or some kind of like where you raised, what do you say raised, where you held the ground for people to be in a harmonious state, or there's diplomacy, there is evenness, equality. What do you call this? The word I'm looking for here. It's very much that energy of like everybody's on equal terms, basically, right? Um, so it could have been that you also, what was it, the other ones? Uh, like a peacemaker. That's pretty common for Libra as well. Let me do my other cheat sheet here. Yeah. So any sort of cooperation. You could also have been an artist in the past life as well.
Wow.
Um, like a judge, like a lawyer, anything to do with law. That's also, I totally forgot about that. Anything to do with contracts as well, like a contract worker, any kind of agreements, a marriage counselor, uh, you name it, anything to do with marriage, anything to do with unions, agreements of some sort. Again, of course, a diplomat. Um, let's see here. Um, Sometimes to the point where the countries or the places or groups or collectives that you were in charge of were probably like it had to be really like peaceful, right? I'm looking into how, let's see here. Venus is the traditional ruler of Libra, and it says here it's in the anaretic degree of Aquarius. So you definitely were like an revolutionist in the past, some kind of revolutionary figure. Um, and you worked a lot with, what is this one saying here? Oh, you must have also had concerns regarding, it was like a spiritual, it's tied to spirituality. It was definitely tied to, um, churches, spirituality, doctrine, indoctrination, dogmatic circles. It could also have been in prison. It could also be in places where, let's see here, isn't it? Places of confinement, hospitals, okay, asylums, secret societies, occults, uh, groups, healthcare systems as well. It's probably part of that as well. Mental institutions, drug cartels, you name it, like
Wow.
charity organizations,
Sounds kind of
um,
crazy.
yeah, yeah, any kind of artistic endeavor as well. That's any schools or organization or institutions tied to that. Psychiatric hospitals has been part of that as well. Temples, churches, synagogues, meditational centers, private getaways as well. Any sort of clandestine activities was involved here as well. On sort of behind the scenes stuff as well. Any sort of places where there's restorative solitude, quiet places. But because it's in Capricorn, it would have been somewhere not so much Neptune-ish. Let me double check Neptune here. Generally, that's the places I mentioned there, but it could also been like a either left wing or I would say yeah, less socialism, communism. You could have been in some place where there was a communist place or somewhere where there's also high elevated places where there's close to mountains. So it could have been Russia as well. The post-Soviet countries as well. Um, it could have been anywhere also where charities are included there. Um, there was probably some sort of covert plots there, fraudulence, illicit activities, societal, not, oh, addictions. What do you call this? Please, where people were, groups were in some sort of I wouldn't know what I can say, like again, sort of mental institutions, kind of that stuff. Again, tied to the addictions, tied to drug use, alcoholism, any form of addiction. Um, um, call this because it's square to the south node is square to Neptune. It's showing me that it's developing spirituality would have been quite challenging in the past, or sort of like any sort of psychic gifts, or if you had been part of some sort of contract or relationship or some sort of like transformative situations where you had to go past trauma, you had to go past taboo, you have to go past any sort of like death defying or literal death as well, where you had to transition, but you couldn't. There was a lot of challenges tied to that. So it could have been
Wow.
that you were, let's double check here with Capricorn. Because it's tied to the eighth house, there's something to do with the skin. Skin, your knees, skeleton. It is the eighth house. So anything related to that in this life is a manifestation of what you experienced in the past life as well.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, I've been working on that with the healer, like going into my past lives and everything.
mhm, yeah.
Working on
And
the trauma and all that. Yeah.
yeah.
Quite interesting. I like
hmm
learning about it and
hmm
growing and working on all that.
hmm hmm And it could also have been tied to, what am I seeing here? It's switching the screens. I don't know why it's saying that. Just realized it looked took a picture of my cheat sheets. That's okay. These are not my words. Um, so you can probably see here, but so you could have also worked in, because it's high mountains, Capricorn. You could have worked with specifically like cloven animals, if that was part of the healing process, or um, but
What type of
because
animals?
like cloven-footed creatures,
I still
bears
didn't
also
hear what you said.
cloven, like goats. Again,
Oh,
goat, sheep. Yeah, yeah. So that's there's always a tie to that somehow. If you're working with anything spiritual, it could have been tied to things like it says here. What is this one? Pansy, ivy, red and black poppy, hellebore, carnation, horsetail. Um, I don't know if you are allergic to any of these types of food in this life,
yeah,
because it is
I'm
tied to the
I'm
eighth house.
allergic to a lot.
Yeah, onions, meat, salted nuts, potatoes, beets, barley, malt, starchy foods. That's a big one, probably.
Yeah.
Quinces, spinach. Uh, okay, let's see here. Uh, what else am I seeing with the eighth house? There's something there that would have happened in the past too. So could have been like toxins as well. There could have been some sort of toxins in the past as well.
Yeah,
Um,
that resonates.
uh-huh. Probably from like someone, maybe because of the work you were doing, probably. Yeah, let's see here. I don't know if hypochondria. I don't know if you've ever had that in this life. Sleepwalking, trances, hypnosis. Uh, that's more of the spiritual stuff itself. But yeah, any sort of abnormalities. If squares show me that there might have been sort of, again, poisoning, toxins. You could have been involved in some sort of also what do you call that, an not not a pandemic, an endemic.
Oh,
um
the only thing
but
I know in regards to that is like when I had a reading done, I don't know if it was like in the astral or what, but like poisoning from an alien that I had to have removed. But
sure, that can.
yeah, fun
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Yeah,
They
right.
loved toying with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. So what else did I see here? So could have been also involved also in photography, again, anything artistic as well. Again, so religion is part of this one as well. um Maybe because they were maybe trying to get you to be telepathic, or rather there was something about telepathy there. Okay, I'm not going to see that until I look into the asteroids. I usually get more detail when it comes to asteroids. Now
Okay.
when it comes to your north node, that's the path ahead of you. So we have here North Node 11 degrees, always opposite of the lunar nodes are always the same degrees, one side to the other. Again, this is for the video.
I wish I know how to
Um,
read these things. This is so cool.
it is. Well, for me, it's always been like that. It's always, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like it's just your thing. That's so cool.
yeah. So in this life, you're basically headed towards more working on yourself. Now, because it's tied to the eighth house and it's tied to the fifth, the second house, this signifies to me that the gifts you're incorporating from past life in terms of the your ability to transform relationships in your own relationship to yourself, meaning kind of like what to do. In this life, you're being called to something else where you manage your own finances. You are able to really embody sort of what really resonates with you in terms of being your own leader, a pioneer when it comes to not only what worth is or self-worth as we call it in second house, but also like resources that you get from other people. Now, it's tied to Neptune, so I feel like there was no unconditionality in the past. So in this life, you are learning to work with being unconditional with yourself. So when it comes to money, when it comes to finances, or even just a form of freedom, any form of financial freedom, it could be abundance as well, of course, because it's transcendent. Neptune here is showing me the transcendence. So that means that you're going further than what abundance we see as, like what how we see it. It's just that
Yeah,
there's
for
other types of form of abundance. Yes. Um, this could also mean that you might have challenges when it comes to building your own business if you were to do that, or some kind of like even traveling might be part of this one. This is like big business stuff, or some sort of like beliefs of faith that you have, expansion. It's tied to Jupiter. So we have here your Jupiter tied to your sun. So your identity is tied to this, but it's more than just identity, right? It's really bringing to your consciousness, says here conscious, right? So having fun, but also working with any sort of extreme or, you know, leisure sort of activities. That's very much a Jupiter thing. Having prudences here, watching out for hypocrisy. That's from that's from a Libra thing. Libras like me. Sometimes we have to watch what we are trying to balance because we're very judicial in our nature. We like we like things that are equal and even, but sometimes at a detriment when we're looking at there's a shadow side to that is like comes out through Aries, which is like we're trying to point fingers at others because it's like, oh, it's not even, it's not quiet, it's not peaceful, it's not. So sometimes we forget that it's like, well, we need a bit of the noise to remind us that it's like, oh, we can actually hear.
yeah,
There's a gift behind everything. So it reflects itself through the other signs, like through Capricorn and also Cancer here. There's a shadow side that's through here, which is like form of security. Your past, your life path, or path, is also tied to a sense of security, some sort of like, in this case, when it comes to security in the form of service, is security in terms of what you are either unconsciously doing in the sixth house years or what you are bringing to the subconscious. Either way, it's not dealt with directly. So here, your past lives have showed you to be more conscious of it. This is the house of taboo, so it basically keeps us aware of what we believe abundance to be. In your case, it's really tied to abundance, tied to a lot of beliefs about not just abundance, but also tied to things that maybe somehow you unknowingly swept under the rug. It's also
yeah.
tied to family because in Neptune here, it's in the 12th house, which is tied to your body. Um, and it's tied to what do you call this? Things that you probably have carried on through the family line, or rather
Oh,
maybe
yeah,
even
for
more,
sure.
right? So, yeah. Okay. So, what else am I seeing?
I was
Again,
doing our healing the other day, and I found out that 7 generations back, the lady had smallpox.
hmm,
So now I got to work on healing that 7 generations back on my mom's side. It's just
yeah,
going back and finding those puzzle pieces that you need to heal
yeah, yeah. Going back to that, because
and then
it's
putting them all
carried.
together.
Yeah, it's carried on through the line. So yeah,
Yeah,
that
and you
totally makes sense.
didn't know, who would have known? And it just randomly came up during a reading. Like she
Hmm.
didn't intentionally, wasn't really looking for it. It just came up. So I'm like, oh, that's
Hmm.
cool. I needed that puzzle piece.
Yeah, yeah, right. So it's also working with like I feel like this one here because the south node is in the 11 degrees here. It's already it has what in astrology, it's actually from Vedic astrology, where referred to as dwads. It's in the Dwad of Aquarius. So what's showing me here, there's something tied to the nervous system, the circulatory system, but it is actually also tied both to the nervous system, circulatory system, and to the adrenal glands. So stress hormones, what is that one? So anything that kind of stresses you out in your nervous system, and Neptune also rules nervous system, does affect you health wise in this life through your skin. Because back then, maybe boundaries needed to be set. You know,
Yeah,
Neptune
that's a
is not,
huge one.
yeah. So having that boundaries means like it's like you need to say, oh, that's why your skin is going like, ah, maybe it's reacting, but it's not getting the boundaries it needs through physical material, you know, vitamin connected, nutrients related things in your body, right? So, right. So, yeah. So,
Wow, that resonates.
mhm. Let's see here. There's something about, let's see, 7 degrees. Neptune was in Sagittarius. Before I go into the dot, I want to make sure that, so it's in Capricorn. So in Saturn rules this one. So it must have been tied also some sort of active life that you had in the past. Maybe you were some sort of traveler, a gypsy. So I don't like that word, but you know, a Romani, traveling a lot, or some kind of philosopher. There must have been ties to that as well. So, but also kind of it could also have been tied to the big business. It could have been tied to any sort of organization you're in, or maybe some not necessarily an organization, maybe some sort of a group. Um, this is hunting. I'm not sure if that one's there.
Hmm.
We'll have to go to the asteroid now because I'm not getting the details here because it's this is the reason I use asteroid is because
I
it
don't know if
actually
it's
gives
the
me the
sound
specific.
on my end or the sound on your end, but I can barely hear you, and I have my phone volume all the way up.
Oh, hold on. Let me
And
check
I
the
also
volume.
know that you're really
Let me see here.
soft,
Oh, sorry. That's why
softly
it's my
spoken.
volume. Is that better?
Oh, I was like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, what's going
Sorry.
on?
My
It's
bad. All
okay.
this time. Okay.
That's
Okay. There you go. So the trick is to kind of understand where your boundaries need to be, but also being able to, you can say diplomatically and judicially for yourself, be aware of what kind of things you agree to do. Maybe it's a contract, maybe it's not necessarily legal. It could be something, just something simple as yes, no, or just,
oh
right?
yeah, almost everything's a contract. Yeah, even
Yeah.
though we don't
So,
realize they are.
yeah. So, okay, so yeah, so that's the thing. So, let's see here. The other thing too is because it's in the air to fire, there's an air fire thing here. And I don't, and this is not put anyway in judgment. Right there, when you talked about the volume thing, that's similar to what I do, where um, we've learned to be more, what do you call this? I guess you can say aware of the moments that we need to, that we're in, where we're expressing through information and communicating them directly from the very get-go. This is a very typical air-fire transition in the North nodes. So, um, and you're learning that. So great. That's a perfect example of what you just did there. Um, right. So, right. So, because fire is usually about inspiration, it's initiative, it's the birth of things, it's like a spark. So you've been learning how to do that in this life. Um,
I'm definitely working on it.
yeah, yeah. So definitely like a leadership role that you might be getting into.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm
So
kind of doing now.
yeah. So let's see here. So I'm gonna close this one. I'm gonna open. Actually,
I've been getting a lot of my readings that are mentorship or leadership or guidance.
hmm yeah. So let's go further into. So those are gifts in the past. Like I can see here, just to be general more about this one, the placements of these asteroids. We have Lucifer, Sisyphus, Proserpina, and Phaedra. Those are, you must have had some sort of like doubts about your dark side. Okay. This is the Lucifer consciousness is literally in this asteroid. Lucifer consciousness rules like falling. He rules like being misunderstood. It's about separation, right? The hubris, having power or not having power, so being again misunderstood. Megalomania must have been sort of like in the past because, or you have doubted like your grandiosity. You probably, because it's retrograde, it means that you doubted that sort of like loving yourself and being more of service to others. That Neptune shows me some sort of self-sacrifice thing that you must have done in the past or past parallel lives that was very martyr-like, right? So we were just kind of like, oh, help others, and forget myself. And then it might have been some sort of, the consciousness back then must have been like, or back then, quote unquote, back, must have been some sort of like, instead of being humble, he was like false humility. That's part of the Lucifer consciousness that because it is not, right? It's it's a part of ourselves that is pretty much like the shadow when we're trying to say I'm this, but actually I'm not this, right? So it's egoic light, imagination, those kind of stuff. Um, Spiritual ego, so that's a big one. That's, we see that a lot in spiritual communities. It's fine. It's part of the process. Um, Again, con maybe there was some sort of things tied to conquest, leadership as well in the past, misuse of power, maybe some sort of plundering. Materialism might have been a thing because it's in the eighth house as well. I'm seeing here mockery or magic, right? Kind of like pointing the finger, kind of stuff. Very sort of tied to the Libra energy as well. Maybe a catalyst for denied aspects of yourself. Um, a lot of ego processing as well. Reputation. Okay, let's double check here. Sexual power, seduction, sexual power. That's one of the things. It's an eighth house thing as well. Let's see here. Okay. So there's a tie to something about torches. I don't know if you were torched in a past life or something like that. Maybe, I don't know, because it's something to do maybe to do with magic. I'm seeing Proserpina. I did see Sisyphus, but I'll get to that. Something to do with maybe working with uh like probably like the skies. I'm seeing here stars and suns. So must have been some
Wow.
sort of connection with that. Falling stars as well. Mm, sun and moon cycles is included here as well. Any sort of light, again, clouds, of course. Again, the atmosphere, something to do with that. Mountain peaks, you must have lived in those places. Gravity, must have been also a scientist in a past life. So,
Hmm.
um, let's see here. Working in the ocean as well, or water. Seafloor, oceans, abyss. Uh, if it's anything to do with the Neptune placement I saw earlier, maybe something to do with like being in the trenches, maybe something to do with war. Maybe you were like a war general or something like that. Okay.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Maybe you're also some kind of president or prime minister or something. Impeachments. Maybe you were dethroned, banished, excommunicated, or a leader. Any sort of demotion as well. Um, I gotta change this one.
I
Misspelling.
need to
Okay.
look someone up who does past life readings. I think I've tried to, you try to do different readings and stuff. That's one I really want to do.
hmm Yeah. That's always good because you
I've
get
always been
to,
curious about that.
yeah, yeah. Um, let's see here. Or you must have also fallen, by the way. So falling was a sort of thing. Or maybe you liked flying. Maybe you were in some sort of extreme activity, extreme sports, either in air or water. Maybe that's something recent. Maybe because it's a 20th century thing, right? It's like kayaking, downhill mountain biking, those kind of stuff, extreme sports. Um, but again, you might have not done that. So in this life, you are going into the Aries energy, which is more like risk taking, being in the moment, being present. Uh, Not that gambling should be part of this. It's like there's a risk, yeah. So, but also kind of being a pioneer as well, like a trailblazer, right? Mm, must have also been sort of, I don't know if you were also involved in some sort of the cosmetics industry, or maybe you
I
worked with
wanted to be
shiny
a cosmetology
Oh, there you go. There you
ologist.
go. Okay. Or a makeup artist, maybe too, or something like
Yeah.
that. Okay. There must have been also something tied to tyranny or genocide, autocratic governments, a demiurge. I heard that before. I forgot what that means. Psychopathy, sociopathy. Probably also being an outcast. You're labeled. Again, we kind of talked about that before.
Yeah.
Um, Bullying, maybe persecution. Okay. Attempted murder or rape is kind of heavy stuff. I don't
Oh.
see that as part of the Neptune thing, but it could be. I mean, and it's sort of also social exclusion. Again, that's tied to the Libra. Working in cemeteries or burials, or maybe something to do with that. Maybe there was a cult came through earlier, so maybe there was some sort of, not to be negative here, but a satanic group
Wow.
or something like that. And there's some sort of involving of summoning of demons or demon archetypes, right? So
Holy
again,
shit.
because yeah, philosophy is also tied to this as well. It's makes sense with the Libra placement. Okay. We go
This is
into
kind of
some.
crazy. Saying.
Did this come up in the other readings as well?
No,
Okay, that's
no,
fine.
but
Yeah.
I don't
Oh no,
know.
but okay, okay. So I'm gonna go into Sisyphus here. So Sisyphus is that Sisyphus is the guy who, the boulder he pushes up so it's um maybe back then because of the Libra placement, Libra has also a tendency to kind of be because Libra wants it to be easy, like relaxing, peace and quiet. There might be a doubt to kind of maybe in the past work through certain things because maybe there's something to do with the health where it's like if it's too much then it's like I don't want to do that, or maybe that it's the opposite, you had to literally push yourself and it's continuously like fruitless labor, that kind of stuff, right? Specifically when it comes to health, that's more of a this life kind of thing. Tyranny is coming back up again here, I noticed that. um Craftiness, maybe. I don't know. Megalomania is coming back up again here. So I'm not saying you're megalomania. I'm just saying, but again, it's retrograde. So usually retrograde is a focus. Retrograde's often referred to focuses in astrology. It means something to work on, something that needs to, uh, what do you call this? Attention. It just needs more attention in this life or
Yeah.
whatever. Let's hear inhospitability, hospitality. So maybe somewhere in a hotel. I don't know because that's a hospitality industry. Mistreatment, abusive gifts, pride, extreme hubris. That's coming up again. Quid pro quo. So maybe having the balance right. Just desserts, karma, punishment. Tied to this one in the past. So learning from all these sort of like your dark side in the past. When I say dark side, I mean like you're more because the darkness is often misunderstood as like, oh, it's dark and blah, blah. Like the darkness is self-processing, it's contemplation. It's in Christianity they teach well, I grew up Catholic. So in the Bible they say what was it? What was it? The line was in the Genesis or something like that in that book. They said something about in the beginning there was darkness, and then that's the one, that's darkness, it's a form of creation, it's creative power actually, but we don't think of it that way because it's processing. When we're processing in the moment, we're actually allowing yourself, you surrender to surrendering, literally like allowing for the emotions to come through, is when we get our, this is why we meditate before doing mediumship readings or even psychic stuff, especially channeling. The further when we're connected, when we're connecting out there, we're not really going out there actually. We're connecting, well, it is out there, but it's more of a, the way I see it is it's expansive, like, I don't know how to put this one. I'm sure you understand this already, but it's kind of like the um lightness is it has its correlation with ease. Lightness is like dust particles, for example. When you clump dust particles into like massive thing, it becomes denser, right? So when we go further inside, it's dense. That's why the earth is dense. Um, so But when we go out there, it's actually lighter. That's why gravity doesn't really work out there. There's really no gravity out there. There is more inside. So it's kind of like how I see personally like the universe and how we, in terms of when we talk about elevation and expansion and all that stuff. That's really just for me, that's what it feels like. So how I'm tying this to this whole thing is that when we what was I talking about here? So I digress a little bit. So um, when we try to incorporate things and go into the darkness, so to speak, it's actually working with the density and seeing it as like, oh, okay, accepting it as that part of that process because it's processing, and then we release it and then say, what did I learn from that? Right.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's a long story. So, anyways, there's okay. So, what else do I see here? Let me go skip some stuff here. Okay, so maybe there's some sort of like, um, I don't know if there was a desire to kind of live longer in the past. You could also have been oh, this one's tied to Neptune, navigation. So you must have been like a captain of a ship or some sort. Um, yeah, navigating officer, sailor, anything nautical. Okay. The Philosopher's Stone is tied to this one because it's the fountain of youth or elixirs. Um, If anything, in recent pasts, parallel past, was transhumanism. So, I forgot what that term. I feel like it's something to do with the cryonics, extending the life of humans. I feel like that's related to that one. DNA alternation, not alteration, alternation. Vampirism, US usnia, I don't know what this is. Something about mummy powder. Again, these are sort of like things related to prolonging life. Um, Life extending methods. There you go. Cryopreservation, exercise pill, anti-aging pills, you name it. Um, I don't know if you've ever encountered these other things related to, I don't know, it says here nicotinamide mononucleotide, NMN, blood transfusions, I don't know, that kind of stuff. But maybe, or not necessarily you per se, but just something to do with lifespans. Or maybe because it's retrograde, I feel like maybe you didn't live a long life in the past. It was quite short. Like your life expectancy of where you lived was quite short. So there was, I would say, unequal or an amount of birth and death rates where you lived. Numbness might be part of this one as well. There's something about procaine hydrochloride. I forgot what that's, or I think it's something to do with numbness. Okay. Stem cell biology. So you could have been doing something stem cell research in the past, but it didn't last probably long because this is retrograde Sisyphus. So let's see. I'm gonna keep going. Proserpina. So those are still things you can look into. So if you're talking about life expectancy or life itself, prolonging life related kind of stuff, like hard work and all that stuff, that's something the gifts from those can be taken into this life where it's more about what is prolonging life. Well, when they talk about, or not they, but I don't know if you heard this, that when we're actually very present, it feels like time passes, but actually it feels like we've aged, but actually we haven't because we're literally going with more of nature inside of us. That I call it the primordial sovereignty or that internal it's that intelligence with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, you must have also had doubts about being carefree in the past. Is Proserpina retrograde here? Yes, it is. Um, something about that, like where you had to adapt, maybe be pragmatic. Something to do also with grains, fruit seeds, saplings, pomegranates, fruits with seeds, um, loss of innocence. I'm sorry to say that, but maybe in past life as well. Um, something to do with charms, or you again remember when we will go through lives, even Dolores Cannon talks about this. We all have to play both the good and the bad guy. So we all experience that because that's what the soul, that's how the universe expands through fragmentation, right? So um it says love reunions that come true can come true through belief or insistence. So natural or forced love. I feel like this one was more because the tied to the Neptune thing, again, there's something to do with the sacrifice of yourself, like giving over to a loved one or lover, um, or loved ones. Oh, this one's interesting. Abductions.
Hmm.
No, I'm not going to go into that further because you already know what I'm talking about. I think. Um, see here. So again, arranged marriages must have been also part of that. Child marriage, maybe. So a young girl, could have been a young girl in one of the past lives. So that
Wow.
means that young girl meaning like you could have died early because the Sisyphus things, lifelong. So I'm seeing that as like it's not. It was cut short.
Wow.
Um, mhm. Something to do with fertilizing or growing, working with the earth as well. That's called tied to Libra as well. Nutrition. Okay. Uh, transplanting, farming. So seeding, sowing, reaping. That's tied to Proserpina. The last one here is Phaedra. Phaedra is quite this one's more about it's shame and sex. There's sort of yearning for intimacy. Yeah, again, there's must have been some sort of manipulation involved. I'm not saying you, I'm just saying whoever, it doesn't matter. Um, there was probably some sort of tied to blame, family and love, siblings, or rather this is a funny story because incest part of this one as well. So that's her story. That's how we do things in astrology. The planets or the planetary bodies are named after the mythological slash legend figures. They represent something. So I'm not saying that it happened, but I'm also saying that it could have happened. Something to do with stepchildren as well, marital discord. The marital discord explains the square placement here. Crimes of passions, so innocents accused, caught in the crossfire, so casualties. That's the war thing that's coming through. Or I said earlier, there's something about you being a general or some sort of leader, a person in a leadership position. Ostracism. There might have been also panic or paranoia, especially because of the endemic I talked about. Neptune rules endemics. Um, let's see here. Secrets, that's probably tied to that. Curses. Not to be negative. I'm just saying this is the lessons that we have to learn. Suicide, homicide. You could also have been a royal person, like a king or queen in a royal family, a noble bloodline. That's I wouldn't doubt that. That's tied to the yeah, that's tied to Libra as well. And is it tied to Capricorn? Yeah. Um, this is internal leaks, something to do with leaks. There's something about leaks, like leaking. So, common law, about having common law. Um, I don't know if you were some sort of like in a what is like a what is that one? Blue collar position. I don't know what it was. Um, seeing here contrabands, no, hidden compartments, secret rooms, hidden rooms, diaries, journals, secret bars. Again, underground stuff that ties in with the eighth house placement, some bunker. The war thing might have been tied to this one. So you must have escaped somehow through like a bunker or hideout, secret passages. or safer panic rooms. I don't know. That's a more of a modern thing.
Wow.
Um, yeah.
Resonate.
So, yeah. So, let's see here. Now let's look at what you get into. It's the past is kind of the past already. So let's go into the first one I see here, Sekhmet. Sekhmet is a Egyptian goddess. She's about switching emotions, hot and cold. You know that song by Katy Perry? Hot and you're cold, you lessen. Yeah, that's very Sekhmet. Um, so because there's some sort of like the things you're learning about that is balancing your energies, specifically with your adrenal glands. Again, it's tied to your eighth house. It's tied to the health as well because it's also tied to the 12th, so it means your health. So when you balance the pH levels also in your body, that's important. Stress and pH levels, that's the key, especially with us Libra Aries. We have to watch out for that one. Um, So we're looking for medicine or health medicine treatments, therapies, remedies, antidotes, cures, potions. Includes also incantations. I would say it's also working directly with the sun. There's something about something solar, maybe solar insolation, radiation. Um, I don't agree with radiation because it's good for you. If you do work with sort of feline animals, lions, that would make sense. I mean, we're talking like it could be a form of healing. I mean, because these animals are very present. Uh,
Interesting.
Cobras. Not saying that you need to work with cobras. I'm just saying there's something about cobras. It could be symbolic as well. Something to do with arid landscapes, deserts. That ties in with the Aries energy because it's fire, right? Um, Anything to do with desertification. So maybe you could what do you call this? What do you call that? Reforesting, like in places that have been deserted, not necessarily left alone, but yeah, that could be too. Or places that are dry, arid lands. There's something to do with that. There's something that's been over farmed, you know, any sort of drought, places like that. Ecological over exploitation as Aries, especially with Aries. Aries supports the underdog, right? So um, let's see here. Something to do also with groundwater, right? Soil aridity, that kind of stuff. It could be tied to the career, not necessarily career, but kind of maybe as a job. It is the second house. It's money. It's where we make money. It's money as freedom, or financial freedom. Again, it doesn't have to be material. It could also be symbolic. It could be in many ways, right? Of course. Desert ecology. So things to do with desert sands or dust storms. Thermodynamics, okay. Differentiation and homogenization. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Something to do with also poverty. Okay, this is tied to segment. Human impact on environments, right? So global warming is tied to this one. Rising temperatures, again, those kind of things. Things of in red, something to do with red. That's just a dye sort of thing. But, imitations. Are you allergic to pomegranates?
Not that I know of.
Okay, that's fine. It says here red juices from fruits or vegetables. So tomatoes, cherries, strawberries, watermelon, red grapes, cranberries, beets. Yeah.
Not that I know of.
Okay, cool. That's fine. If you react to alcohol, that totally makes sense. Alcohol is toxic anyways.
Yeah, I don't do.
Um,
I
okay, cool.
every time I have it just made me sick, so no.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have hypertension or hypotension?
Hyperthyroidism.
Okay.
No, not. Wait,
Okay, that's fine.
hyperthyroidism is high blood pressure, right?
I don't know. I just know hypertension. I have hypertension.
Oh, wait, that's
That's
yeah.
blood pressure, high blood pressure,
Yeah. No, I
or
don't
low
have
blood pressure.
that.
Okay. Okay. There's something also with like hematophagy or hematophagia, something to do with insect bites, or I think it's a form of healing. I forgot what it is.
Wow.
Um, yeah,
Really?
yeah. I don't know what I think something sort of healing. I don't know what it is. Look it up. It's Hematophagy.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. I feel like here you're doing more than just, making money. I think there's something greater, something to do with people who have experienced plagues or disease or illnesses, because in the past you've already experienced that. You went through toxicity, you went through all that corruption. So it's good to know from that it's like, oh, okay. Um, or you could do other things like some sort of like changing the way we see divine right. This is part of Sekhmet, like divine right. This is the mandate of heaven. So royal decrees, rulers, absolute rules. Maybe you're here to shift that and change absolutism, tyranny as well, um, authoritarianism, that kind of stuff, or the caste system in India, as an example, right? So maybe you're here to change all that stuff. Something to do with. I'm not sure if this one's part of this one. Again, this is more royalty stuff. The canes, maces, that's not that important. But yeah, so that's something to do with the world. I feel like it's something to do with the world because you have Jupiter here. Something about expanding. Again, it's something to do with big business. Jupiter is big businesses. It could also mean like long distance travel. If that resonates with you, because I know Jupiter people, having that. But if it's scary at first, I can explain past life stuff. Right there is, maybe resistance to that.
Yeah, I definitely
Um,
feel like I am.
okay. There's also an asteroid here called Rad. I forgot how to pronounce this one, but it's a Slavic god, Radagast. He's about the immensity of things, expansion, beyond, right? As within, so without. Um, in this life, it's more about being open to things. Diversity is part of that. That's the Jupiter thing. Foreigners as well, and generosity, warm-heartedness. That's the Sun. Um, being distinct, unique as well as part of this. So independence, right? Kind of going at it alone or being going solo. Uniqueness and or uniformity. I feel like that's tied to the Libra thing. So you have to balance the two, right? Freedom and or unity. Okay. Uh, so demystification of things. That's right. So it's almost like again you're maybe there's a sort of mockery tied to this one. Um, in typical astrology, Venus rules Libra, which is your past life, but Eris is the modern ruler of Libra. Not many astrologers do that, but I totally agree with that because I looked at Eris's mythology and I've done the research on her. She's totally Eris. So she does mockery. Mockery is, when I say mockery, I mean like she goes, is this what you really want? Is this what you really want? Are you sure? Are you sure? Libras do this all the time, right? It's like we like kind of test the ground and kind of like laugh at the absurdity of inequality, the absurdity of power, right? But again, there's also a shadow to that. If we mock too much, it's kind of like, oh, right? So we're not accepting, we're resisting. So, hmm, let's see, resilience, strength, okay, opulence, creature comforts. That's totally fine. That's part of your life that you can accept. Learning to balance things with your pH level as well. Doing things a shot in the dark. Uncertainty, okay. Dealing with uncertainty, postulation, all that stuff. I want to look at more from a very grounded uh, approach because your second house shows me that you also have Taurus tendencies as well. Taurus rules the second house, and it's your sun is in Aries and your Mars that rules Aries. I know it's confusing right now, but your Mars was in Taurus because your part of your core beliefs is taking action, having initiative when you in your family, your environment, in this family that you're in right now, or that you had in this life is that core beliefs tied to that Taurus. Simplicity, groundedness, just give it to me straight, just keep it simple, building things, learning from that. Sensuality, comfort, ease, kind of stuff. It's tied to Taurus, but it's like kind of working at it and just doing it bit by bit and kind of just like building from there. Again, the key word is simplicity. Um, so a lot of but because of that, what happens in terms of career, it's opposite. It's mid-heaven. It's up here. It's in Scorpio. Your mission here is to learn catharsis. Your mission is to go beyond this physical life and sort of like go at, what it means. The world probably sees you. I think I read this for you before already, that your mission is to learn transcendent or more like transmutative, transformative, regenerative stuff. Regeneration is part of this as well. Uh, Endeavors. So, however the world sees you, they might see you as cold, right? Right? They might see you as kind of cold, secretive. That's how the world assesses you. But what they don't really see is that you're actually very sensual. You're actually very kind of like, oh, as long as you just keep it simple, give it to me straight, I'm totally with you. I'll support you, right? But what they don't, that's what they don't see. So you have to learn how to balance that. It's like, oh, well, people might see you as like complicated or complex, but actually,
Hmm.
so you're
Yeah.
balancing those two together by saying, I can be complex and simple at the same time, or that's one side of me you're not seeing. So so when it comes to careers like that, right? When I was reading this whole thing with Radagast, it's like that whole criticism thing. So you might get that, and that's okay, right? Because people just there's still judgment, and we still have many of us still have what I call unhealthy egos. But when they work on it themselves, when they do the work, especially shadow work, that's also tied to your mission, by the way.
Yeah,
When
I
they
need to
don't
do
work it,
shadow work. I've done some of it, but I still have more to do.
yeah. Teal Swan has wonderful stuff that she has, wonderful videos. Teal Swan, she's very more in depth with shadow work. I've done stuff with shadow work too, but it's through a book called The Dark Side of Light Chasers by Debbie Ford. She passed away in 2007, I believe. But that's when I started reading her book. It was just like, that's how I started shadow work. Show you. It's
I
just
need
called the dark. Sorry.
um has been coming up. It came up the other day. I was with my mentor, she brought it up and she told me to do a shadow prayer like before I go to bed at night.
Okay. Yeah. So in my experience, shadow work is it starts something as simple as well, Teal Swan does it where she has what you call the completion process. So what she does is her shadow work is tied to inner child stuff. But the point is, what we're doing is we're going deeper into the subconscious, or we call it subconscious, and we're using emotions to get us there. So when we tap into a specific emotion, one of the parts in her completion process is that you go into when when was the earliest time I recall, not in the mind, in the emotion, literally in the emotion, that emotion itself. When was the earliest time? How far can I go? Then you have this sort of process where you literally see the images in your head. Of course, this is technically clairvoyance, but you go back into the memory of your past as far as you can go, and then see what you let the child, your inner child, lead you where it wants to go, and then you do these sort of first person, third person aspects. You ask it questions, and you literally follow that child wherever it takes you, right? And if it takes, and you have to allow it. There is no time limit. There is no minimum. There's no maximum. It has to be completed. So
Yeah.
what's happening is there's an aspect of ourselves that we tap into, and it gets bigger than that, but it's wonderful stuff. It's very healing. There are other stuff. There's a video. Look up shadow work with Teal Swan. There's some instead of just the book itself, there's other stuff that she does as well. So you can look it up, and it's there on the internet. It's on YouTube. So.
Okay. I
Um,
wrote it down. Yeah, I'm gonna look more into it.
okay, cool. If it resonates with you too, but I mean, shadow work works for everyone. So, let's see here. So in this life, also there's something to do with dealing with things like, again, power-related things, right? Conquests, maybe conflicts, militant behavior, coercion, destruction, sort of that kind of stuff. I feel like it's something to do with the underdog because it's something to do about that. Something to do with working with people who are, especially foreigners. I don't know. I'm getting asylum or refugees. There's something about that,
Wow.
right? Yeah. So it could be like a nonprofit organization, or doesn't have to be that. It could be something else. Yeah. So that could be a form of abundance too, right? Abundance comes in different forms. Um,
That's cool.
What else am I seeing here? So people also who are amputees. Well, it says here congenital amputation. I don't know what that is. Or people who have had their hands removed. That's part of the story of Radagast. There's also amniotic band syndrome, amnion ruptures. This is a health-related stuff.
I don't know
Uh,
what that is.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. Amniotic fluid? I don't know. Uh, Something also to do with virility, something to do with that. If it's tied to the second house, it's tied to things that could be done when it comes to healing as well. Because once you heal yourself, you learn to realize that, oh, this is what it is for me. Therefore, I can learn to heal others as well.
Yeah, I'm a
I
wounded healer and I'm also a medical medium.
hmm.
So those
So
are like two of my main focuses because I want to, once I develop those and they get stronger, that's really something I want to be able to help people with. With,
okay, good. Hmm.
it's like there's a saying, I don't know how it goes, but once you learn how to heal yourself, you learn how to heal others.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Pain to purpose. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, so that's that too. There's also could be tied to something religious because if something with the past, it could be some sort of like if people were religiously assimilated, maybe offered sacrifice or something like that, changing some sort of, I don't know. I feel like it's hold on.
religion came up a lot.
Okay. Yeah, it's something to do with systems. There's something to do with systems here. Not necessarily directly systems themselves. Let me double check here. Not directly systems, but kind of more like through the spiritual work you do, you can use this. I'm seeing here the square, the challenges you face when it comes to beliefs, specifically in your subconscious. This is the house of the subconscious. Anything that you kind of in past lives swept under the rug. It happens. We all do it. As children, we subconsciously resist, deny, disown parts of ourselves, and that's shadow work. So when we go back into that, it's like we have to face it. That's
Yeah,
one of the things you're doing. You're facing
part
it.
of
That's the
healing.
areas.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Also dealing with things like it says here. What is this one? Baldachin's canopy of state. I know those are just something to do with royalty. Fake news, false evidence, falsified evidence, something to do with fabrication, fraudulence, shams, imitations, copycat. Remember that these are personal, of course, right? Sh some it might seem contradictory or kind of like controversial. When I heard this, I was just like, oh, I can see that. You know, I can see that sort of like, ticking people off and be like, what do you mean that there's no absolute truth? I'm like, what she says is that the only truth is that everything is true because we all live as fragments of the universe, right? Because we're here to experience life. And that's what we're going here for. That's what we came here for. It's the universe learning of itself.
Yeah.
And um, so that kind of stuff that can be part of the journey as well. Again, something to do with newcomers, strangers, communities. So like collectives, communal gatherings. Again, hospitality industry is coming up here again. Something to do with charity as well. Philanthropy. There you go. Philanthropic deeds and programs as well, of course. Amenities. So providing that kind of stuff for foreigners or refugees or something like that. I don't know. Let's see here. Potential for xenophobia or other phobias relating to different or other. Okay, so part of the journey. Because, yeah. Financial credit, tributes, paying homage, and that's not really part of that. Cultural assimilation. Okay. It could be anyone. It could be you, it could be people you're working with, either way. Like people who have been like forced out, like maybe I think something to do with Iran or something like that. I don't watch the news. I just yeah. Um, let's see here. Something to do with burning heat, halos, circular things, object roundness, exposure. Let's see here. Myths and legends. I don't know if you like those. Mysteries, hidden things. That could be part of the past life stuff as well. The auric field, magnetic field. Mm. See, overthrowing leaders. I don't know. I'm not saying you should do that, but it's something, there's something there. I don't know. You could be working in the background instead too. You don't have to be doing that directly. I'm not advising you. I'm just saying this is part of the story. So this includes eradication, dethronement, people with no homes as well. That can be part of that as well. Inhabitants, right? Um, any sort of invasion sort of stuff related to invasion could be a spiritual invasion as well, like some kind of stuff. We were talking, you kind of mentioned something a little bit related to that. Here you go. Working with nature, return to nature. And that ties in with your Taurus side. Okay. Um, magic, ancient wisdom. Okay, going back. That explains what you just told me earlier. Ancient things. Okay. Wheat grains and also horses. That could be part of healing. I heard about healing with horses, something about that. Harvesting, farming, agriculture, forests, the sun, the fire, night. That's the fire things coming through. Well, that's Aries thing. The skies as well, celestial objects, cosmos, heavens, firmaments, huge acres of land. If
Wow.
that can be potential, right? Or vast bodies of water. Uh, let's see here. Music that can be part of that as well. Something simple, something a gift from the past life as well. Even if you had doubted it in certain past lives, music can be healing as well, right? Singing, okay, invocations, prayers, sacredness, performing sacred rites, performances, yeah. Oh, and here's a funny one. Something that I'm not sure of myself, but I feel like I had to put it here. Western Slavic cultures and or languages. That's Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Poland. That's Western Slavic. So I don't know if there's something to do with that. I don't know. Okay, now let's go to Pandora. Um, we went over an hour, but that's fine. Pandora is where she's, can of worms. So she's known as but the whole like but she represents actually being multi-talented, being gifted. So you have a lot of gifts from the past lives or your whole life in this experience. And if you have doubts about those, or if those are something that you come into question, that's okay, but it's there. Okay. Mm, let's see here. Healthy versus unhealthy skepticism, um, seductive knowledge. Okay. Something to do with sex, your sexual power, meaning creative power. Okay. Beguiling beauty. If you've had experience with misogyny, I'm not surprised. But if not, that's part of the process. Um, but it doesn't excuse other people's behavior. I just saw a post today about how, well, it's not what others do, it's how we respond to it, right? Well, responding rather than reacting. But you know, um, the patriarchy matriarchy duality. Back to this part of this one as well. She's tied to that. The good wife or independent single mother, parent or parent. Um, Things that represent or symbolize and give hope. So rescue missions, lighthouses, for example. Working with special needs or gifted children, be part of that as well. So it could be tied to the foreign stuff as well, or refugees or people with no homes or that kind of stuff. Again, it's something to do with that. Mm. Sources of information, internet, books, libraries, social media, plagues. Oh, sorry. Forget to. Oh, sources of information. Akashic records? Yeah, so there you go. I'm gonna put that here. Sometimes I update my little cheat sheet. It's not really cheat sheet. But yeah. So there's that. Okay. It says here unwrapping presents, but that means that you're unwrapping gifts that you have, talents that you develop, skill sets that you acquire. That's also tied to that. So
Yeah.
opening the box, sometimes it's questionable. It's like, should I do that? I don't know. So if that's, and that's okay. That's totally fine. But and it's there. Um, oh, totally forgot. You also have ears here. So you are meant to, not meant to, but it's a potential to work with what do you call this? To challenge status quo, challenge the systems. So that means, let me double check here. Sorry. Okay. So the absurdity of things, right? Iris, she's the one that's ultimately she's a kind of a quiet pacifist sort of activist. I'm not saying you should need to be an activist, but she's part of that, right? So she's about absolute inclusion, she's about being cautious, she's about fairness, right? Um oh, okay, that makes sense. Why I saw homelessness. So there's something about homelessness here. People who also go through some sort of like trauma that's related to sadism, masochism, um, any sort of outbreaks. Let's see here. Entropy, um, caution. It's part of the process here. I'm seeing that. Something to do with feathers. I don't know what feathers. Snakes, spirits and or demons. Astral traveling, dimensional traveling, traveling in
Yeah.
general. Okay. Neutrality, that's one of the things too. Deterrence, choices, options, counterblows, depictions, interpretations. Again, so airplanes is tied to this and something about traveling. So being open to traveling, that's definitely a thing here. Observations and or observatories. So something related to the science background you had in past life. Let's see what dwa that's in your north node, 11 degrees. That's what did I say here? Leo. So shining, doing things that are creative as well, tied to this as well. Okay. What says here? Observation. So being kind of out in public, or rather like being in social media, cameras, right? I know that you're not on camera, that's totally fine, but it does state here, this is part of ears. So because sort of if there's sort of a fear behind that, or there's some sort of questioning about that because of past lives, um, you know, you choose. Because maybe it's paparazzi's involved with this one as well. So in
Yeah,
Iris,
I'm
she
trying to
was,
get over that. I've been like
yeah,
working with that a little bit.
yeah. So you just have to kind of be more,
Well, I'm
uh,
energy sensitive too, so I like pick everything up.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that totally makes sense. Yeah. So there's a way to block those things. Um, I'm going to pause the recording here and I'm just going to say, okay. All right. So what we're talking about here. So okay. That's that. Okay. Um, competitions, maybe, I don't know. So if you're not really into that, that's totally fine. It's not really good for the system anyways. If it's well, there can be healthy debates, but you don't have to do any of that stuff. Just, again, go with what resonates with you. Contracts is part of the past life thing. Um, I know it sounds like I'm going to be talking about mediumship, but it really talks about mediums, means, and mechanisms of any kind. So it could also be mediumship, meaning you're an intermediary, right? Um, it says here, are you the youngest child, or do you have a youngest child sort of
No,
thing?
no, my
No.
brother is. I'm
Okay.
the oldest.
Okay. It says here, I'm not sure if applies to you, but it could be. I feel like it's not, but fatherlessness, because yours was fatherless. Uncertain parentage or lineage, um, asexuality. I don't think this is you. Single mothers, having multiple children, something to do with the homeless as well. So I feel like this is more about other people. Single mothers, okay, especially those with a lot of children. the homeless. Okay, that one's coming up again. Again, hidden secrets. So again, you're trying to decorrupt things, possibly. Possibly through more the spiritual things, but you don't have to go about it aggressively or anything at all. It could just be like subtle things, energetically as well. Um, Beliefs or religions with no temples or places of worship. The debatable and questionable ethics. Again, corruption is part of this one as well. That's yours. Absolute certifiability tools. So working with those kind of things like integrous, verifiable, clad iron contracts, agreements. Um, what else am I saying? Sweet things, like sweet, quote unquote, sweet things. So that includes jewelry, riches, desserts, attractive objects and people, credible sources and systems, seductive individuals. The seduction is coming in here again, meaning like the sexual power, creative power, that is. Small but destructive creatures. I don't know if you've ever come across those, like lice, cockroaches, silverfish, bedbugs. Sorry, kind of gross, but
Yuck.
yeah, those kind of stuff, right? Carpenter bees, bird ants, termites, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so she's tied to Eris is a big one. She's a dwarf. It's a dwarf planet. So I'm gonna go into
A
the
dwarf planet?
dwarf. Dwarf.
Wow.
Yeah. So this one's I'm going to go further into this one. Photography, acting, maybe. Professional debater, genealogist, that one's probably for you. A professional hacker, no. Interpreter, I don't know if that resonates with you. The judge thing, that's part of a past life thing, of course. A notary public, commissioner of oaths, fighters that go against the status quo. Gender bending professions, women's rights advocates, female athletes,
Mm.
um, transgendered athletes, LGBTQ activists, human rights activists, social reformer, prosecutioner, that is lawyers. I don't know if that's more of a past life thing, I feel. Um, a neo priest or priestess, an intel agent, like intelligence, right? Ethics expert, a pilot, a plane mechanic, aeronauticist, a spy, nah, sharpshooter, never mind. Metallurgist, so someone who analyzes metals, but there's something about that. Construction worker, sign maker, no, no, no. Pomologist, study of fruits, someone who studies fruits. Pyrotechnicist or pyrotechnics expert, so fire. Travel agent, flight attendant. So, but those are high energy stuff, so you don't have to do much of those things. But this is part of the process. Iris is right here. So, uh, and then we go into is this Siren? Sirona. Sirona. Sorry, that's something comes in coming through right okay, part of the whole cosmos, submergence and emergence. Okay. Again, tied to this whole thing we've been talking about. Let's go further into, I believe Sirena's also, oh no, she's just an asteroid. Um, what did I see here? Gateways, portals. I don't know if you work with portals, if you go through like any sort of water reflective objects. Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm curious about that stuff. I just haven't had a chance to work on it.
Okay, cool. My boyfriend and I were talking about like we talked about it several times doing like some sort of scrying or something like that. Like you throw a mirror and I think making it wet or something like that. I don't know. There's
Definitely, I'm
also
curious about it.
so something also creative would be also something like weaving, okay, or working with sunlight, something about that. Anything astral or star related, okay. Astral projection is coming back here. Celestial objects, we already talked about that. Something again to do with fire, anything to do with fire, night light lamps, beacons, flares, bonfires, lighthouses, that's kind of stuff. Healing and health, that's obvious one. That's an obvious one. We talked about that. Purifying agents, so cleansing agents. Springs, wells, sources of water. Thermometers. Dogs, serpents. Oh, serpents. That could also mean dragons, snakes.
Love
Uh,
dragons.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And eggs, flowers, wheat. So I didn't mean to, as in, I don't mean to be insensitive. I'm just saying, I'm just
Yeah,
trying to say.
I knew what you
Uh,
meant.
okay. Wheat. I don't know if there's something to do with wheat there. Uh, long gowns, dresses, veils, shrouds, or clothes. Okay. Offerings, scepters, diadems. Something to do with offerings. There's something about offerings. I don't know what that is. Um, Coils, helixes, spirals, twists, gyration. This is Serona. Life cycles. Okay. Ailments, remedies, therapy. So again, back to the healing thing. So, was there something to maybe also, oh, working with people who, like in mothers, something about mothers, the pregnancy, gestation period, there's something about that here. Reiki, also part of this one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. And then last but not least, we have Ra Shalom is Ra, Egyptian god. Imperfect, perfect, and perfect. Imperfect, perfect, and perfect, imperfect. Okay. So it's about being omnipresence. He's Ra. Let's go further into some kind of diplomacy, mediator, mm, popularity, fame, pacifism, pacifist, monopolies. Something to do with the kings as well. There's something about that again. I'm not saying go into that. I'm just saying. Yeah. Parenthood. So this was part of your, you know, um, there's something about your father as well. Because it's tied to your North Node. I feel like there's something about the disbelief your father had in you.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. So it triggered your doubt in yourself a little bit because it's tied to past life as well. So in this life, you're learning how to decondition that in yourself, right? So yeah, sorry about that. Parents
Okay.
can be a biatch. I know, but it's part of the consciousness they have. It's their level of consciousness, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, Something about original creations as well. Original creation, literally like when I say original, I mean literally from you in this form, right? Because I've always believed that there's nothing, the only thing that's really original is origin itself. When you go back to origin, when I say origin, I mean like, that's when you develop originality or creativity. Again, that whole sexual energy, creative primordial energy, the darkness, quote, darkness, right? Creativity as well. Composition, something about composition. Again, something about performances. I don't know what that is. Something to do with the job, making money. I don't know, some kind of performance. Can go about it slowly. You don't have to go all out, right? Um, Shrines, something about shrines, synagogues, pyramids, obelisks. Oh, you can go to Egypt.
Uh,
Totem poles. You can go to in Canada, we have cultures that have totem poles in the province of British Columbia.
all I got to say is I think my guides have a lot of faith in me.
There you go. Well, that's the other thing too. So there you go. Yeah. Yeah. Um, Something about the day, like actually going from dusk till dawn, or something about that. I don't know what that means. Or solar aura or the corona. So the corona of the sun, east to west. I don't know if you felt called to go from an east to west location. So I don't know. Um,
I don't know.
Scorching heat. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm kind of just waiting for direction, really, because I don't know. I know that they want me to do something, but I'm like, all right, what exactly is it you want me to do?
Hmm. You've heard of Bashar, right? You've seen
Yeah.
his formula, right? Do you follow that?
No.
Okay. So I'll repeat the formula. So he said, well, it's actually longer than what I'm going to say. He said, uh, follow your highest excitement, um, to the best of your ability with no expectation whatsoever of what the outcome ought to be. And then working on those beliefs, any negative beliefs, or sort of not, I wouldn't call it negative, I call it constrictive beliefs that Because if you have, let's say, if we have a belief about something like, I can't do this, what is that? Like, that's so simple. Um, so for example, like, um,
Not holding ourselves back.
it's more than that. It's like, it's because when we go into the belief and go to the emotions, there's a gift behind why we believe that in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, where did it come? Teal Swan talks about that too. She talks about like, who who taught you that, right? And then you question that, it's like, oh, okay. There's some because it's learned. A lot of the stuff
Yeah, it
I
wasn't our
believe.
belief. It was taught to us. Yeah. And then
Yeah,
we have to heal it.
yeah, yeah. So that kind of stuff. Okay, so going back to the thing here. So something with the sun as well. That one keeps coming up. It's not just your sun is there, but it's something to do with solar things, solar powered inventions. You can work with other people who already done that too. But remember, we talked about original creations earlier. So something about also high noon, the sunlight, subterranean locations. It could be anything. Caves. Okay. Assistance. Oh, that could also be part of your business. Having assistance, having a partnership. There you go. A partnership that could be tied to that. A union, a corporation or something. Cooperation. Or collective or group mass effort. So it could be something tied to like a business with several partners.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
I'm seeing.
definitely one of my goals.
Mm-hmm. Mm, something to do again with atoms. Something to do with warm air, hot air, atoms, air molecules. So not saying going to nuclear fusion, but it's something to do with molecules. I don't know. Because that could also be from a quantum physics level where you're working with because your you call this your mission, your north node is in Scorpio. I feel it's tied to metaphysics, which can be tied to atoms. That would make sense. So it's more than just what you do now. I think it's more also on the physical level. Again, cameras are part of this one. See, it's coming back up. Okay. Something about boats or sailing, barks or barges. Okay, traveling. That totally makes sense. Ties to that one. It's okay to have defeats and sometimes victories, meaning like wins and losses. It's part of life, right? Life-giving things. So anything life-giving. Right? So that could be also part of the healing process. Anything life-giving, right? Vegetables, fruits is part of this one. That one's come up again and again. Multiplicity, that's something to do with this multiple gifts that you have and that you could still have, right? Um, having a secret name, synonyms. So I feel like this one came up earlier. I didn't really mention it. I'm sorry. The hidden things or unknown names. You could have like an alias if you were, if you know, that can be a safer way of going about it. Because if you, we were talking about paparazzi and all that online stuff, that could be totally fine. Identification, that kind of stuff. That's totally understandable, right? So the alias or, that kind of stuff, depending on where you're going, right? Who you're
Yeah, I've
working
kind of
with,
already
right?
started with a little bit on that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Shape-shifting, that could be at an energetic level, that could be spiritual, maybe not. I don't know. Summoning. Wow, this one. Um, take it as you will, right? Summoning or being a summoner of some kind. Like nobody really talks about summoning and summoners, but summoning doesn't just mean you're calling, it's right, it's energetic. Something about augmentation, amplification. So whatever gifts you have in the past, you can amplify that, you can multiply it, right? But this also ties in with investments. So having a property. Okay, having advances, financial advance, right? Financing, grants. Okay, mm. Again, something to do with the health, right? Earlier, maybe that if you feel that in yourself, you can feel that in others as well. Let's see here, because I noticed here with your first house, because I feel like it's important. Part of you is there's a kind of what is this one here? There's a kind of a slight disconnect. Maybe I'm not sure. It's probably changed already, But when you were born, at the very least in several few years, sorry, there was a disconnect to your general overall health when you were younger. A lot of it's tied to the nervous system. Skin as well, generally speaking, the skin and bones, that area of the body. Um, there was this disconnect back then. But then that's what you're learning in this life, right? So that's
Yeah.
why, yeah. So health is definitely related to the sun, the healing stuff. It's not just the spiritual stuff, but it's also physical. So inflammation is tied to this. Bumps, bruises, blisters, sores, tumors, welts, sores, boils, warts, bunions, pimples, zits, tears, sweat, bodily fluids, the eyes, fatigue, breath and breathing, oxygen, sleep and growth of any kind, red eyes, REM state and non-REM state, sleep cycles, anabolic state, circadian clock, sleep disorders. Uh, yeah. Oh, sexual climax or orgasm, reproduction, reproductive process, regeneration, rejuvenation, aging. Mm, because Saturn rules your first house is in the ascendant. Saturn rules uh, ages, aging. Sorry, old people. So uh, that ties into what I saw earlier about Sisyphus. Maybe maybe back then things were probably short-lived. Remember, you were a young girl in one of your past lives, so there could have been something there where um, it's probably tied to either you're afraid of dying early or you're afraid of old age, something like that, right?
Wow.
Okay. Um, but remember, there's also your children, right? Even if it's not biological, it could be adopted children as well. Again, something to do with refugees as well, something to do with that. But again, homelessness, mothers, it's all, I feel like there's a connection. So if it's, they can be the eternal, they can be your lineage is, one of the old shows I used to watch called Vampire Diaries. No, the other one after that, you talk about if you're talking about in eternal life or something like it, family is that because you're having descendants, and descendant is Rosh Hashanah's descendants here, successors, progenies. Could also be something related to work as well. So people that you work with or people you're going to work with, what things you pass on to them, they become that. They can be, you can have a successor. Mm. Um, it says here, what is it? Recycling and reusing, general consumption of resources, payments, that's kind of more general. Welfare checks, welfare programs, social welfare, security officers, and I don't think this one's tied to this one, but I wouldn't I wouldn't not take this into account. Androgyny or non-binary, non-label. I feel like it's tied to Eris. There's something about, I don't know, have you ever thought about working or, with human rights, working with people, maybe indirectly?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
I'm not
Um,
for it, but I'm not against it. I don't know. I just don't.
okay. It doesn't resonate with you right now? Okay. Like activism?
Eh,
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
That's
maybe.
fine. That's fine. Yeah. Um, so all living things is also part of this one. That's raw. So, first cells and or organisms as well. So single cell organism, there's something tied to that with the atoms. It's more, it is metaphysical, but it's also something there. I don't know what it is. Primordial life, right? So something about that. It could mean that you could tie it into the things you're going back into your past lives as well, or past, things like not just the ancestry, heredity or DNA and all that stuff. I feel like there's something to do with the DNA and how that's tied to past lives as well. It could also be galactic. It doesn't matter. The point is it's tied to primordial stuff. Let's see here. Falcons, rams, bulls, cobras, and scarab beetles. Yeah, it's part of this one. Herons, the phoenix. Lions, that's cats, that's tied to the sun here. Flowers, things in 12s or threes. So, Does that help you? I think we're kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So do you get, I would say a lot of it is tied to that whole, whatever you resonate, whatever you're experiencing in terms of how you feel about it. Let's look at your moon. Where's your moon again? Sorry. The moon is in Pisces. Um, because moon in Pisces, my boyfriend has the same placement. Um, there's a tendency for moon in Pisces to uh go very, very, very like idealistic and very spiritual, right? There's a shadow behind that too. It's seen in through Virgo, and it's also seen through Sagittarius and Gemini, where there might be resistance to because the home is how do you call this? The home is tied to or the moon is tied to the home. The moon is tied to our habits, right? So I feel for you, just like my boyfriend, like you prefer light things like soups, liquids, right?
Yeah.
Like light things that you don't, yeah. There might be some sort of like because but the thing is, when it comes to not food, food is it's a physical thing, so you have to honor that. But when it comes to like habits or some kind of subconscious beliefs, um, it could also be because you have your moon square Chiron here. A lot of it is tied to communication when it comes from communication and being able to express yourself, right? Um, and when that's the case, it's also, which is funny because I said here, it's tied to Chiron here, but it's, oops, sorry. It's tied to Chiron here, 22 degrees right here. It's also tied to the shadow found in Virgo and also Sagittarius. When we're talking about this thing, when we're talking about shadow, watch out for any sort of resistance you have towards elements found in these archetypal energies. So looking at the little things. Um, that one I feel like you've already kind of been managing. Um, when I say looking at the little things, but also working with your unconscious. Things that have become so mundane or habitual that it's no longer kind of it's so automatic that you're like, I can't believe I just said that. I can't believe I just felt that. I can't believe that. Question that. That's part of the shadow work. But it's also tied to the shadows that come through in Sagittarius, which is athleticism, dealing with foreign bodies, foreigners, traveling. Well, I don't think you have that because you're being called to that one, but also something to do with philosophy and dogmatism, belief systems, because even though there are religions out there that, that's kind of like the old system, there's a gift behind all that stuff that they taught us, right? It's kind of seeing that we do want to share our gifts with others. But remember that belief is, or faith is something that we don't spread like a virus. It's something we share and then we leave others to choose. So there's the embracing of like, oh, okay, so if you believe in this, and whatever, that's an example. I'm just saying, right? The other one is also learning how to, any sort of things maybe you might not want to communicate, you might not want to say, this is how I feel about myself. This is expression of myself, right? Especially when it comes to, because your moon is square to Chiron, it's tied to um, expressing yourself, being expressive yourself towards uh, children or situations where when it's kind of like it's having fun, when you're enjoying something, being fully expressive without finger pointing or like, because that's part of the shadow work. And the strength can come from being able to actually work with your emotions through these two other signs in Cancer and Scorpio. So biding your time, that's a gift of Scorpio. Work, kind of, weighing things out. I think you already know that, right? And sometimes also things like, not revealing things. This one I think happens naturally for you. So, um, but because your sun is in Aries, and you're a very Jupiterian person, you do want to expand. There's a strong desire to resonate with expanding my business, expanding some sort of freedom. It could be represented by money. It could also be, but also expanding your worth. What am I worth? How do I value myself? That can be seen through those signs in Sagittarius and Leo right here. So that means that it's having pride in what you've already done and kind of like letting go of things that no longer work for you. You know, Sagittarius is a whole like, okay, I'll just take it a different way. But Leo is more like holding your ground at the same time and it's kind of in a way standing your ground without having to let too much ego. When I say ego, I mean like unhealthy ego, you know, being proud of your and shining. So there's you can do that, right? So there's two sides of you that can work, and you adjust to circumstances when it comes to shining for you, because I feel like you have this is one. There's a lot of things because Neptune rules Pisces, it's a modern ruler of Pisces. Jupiter also rules Pisces. So there's two sides to you that goes. Um, you want to grow, you want to believe in yourself, your creative abilities, but there's also part of you that goes, shit. Like, you know, it's just like the systems, you know, but in, you know, you admit to yourself and you say, well, yes, those are the systems, but they're no longer controlling. But it's one thing to say it, it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to literally put in the work and put in the effort into it. That's why shadow work is really helpful for you. That's part of the mission you have in here in Scorpio. So when it comes to things like when you feel like more your inner self, you're like comfortable with yourself, that's the moon. Where you become more magnetic, that's also the moon. It's found through working with your emotions. But once you start shining, once you start discovering what that is, your fire inside you, then you start to realize, oh, I have these gifts where I can, you know, I can be proud of myself. I can work with creative projects. I can, you know, and also be present and be a pioneer, not just necessarily be a pioneer or trailblazer for everyone. You could do it into little things. It doesn't have to be a certain size or a certain venue or certain people that you work with. That's not the point. The point is what is shining within me. So embrace all of yourself, right? Um, yeah. So this is why I do astrology because every aspect of ourselves, through the signs, through the elements, through the planets, through all of everything in astrology, to me, that's another way of saying you embrace all of it. However, you go through it step by step, and you take it one day at a time, one moment at a time. That's what I would say, right? So embrace the strong, embrace the weak, embrace the light, embrace the dark. They all work in your favor. The universe always conspires with you. Gabriel Bernstein said that. But really what it means is what Bashar would say. It's related to that. He says the universe is unconditional. So if we not so much choose, I wouldn't use the word choose. If we um, head into the direction of something that has a belief that pushes us, I wouldn't say backwards as well, that kind of makes us think it makes us, you know, go into that dark state, so to speak, that Lucifer uh, thing we talked about earlier. And that's still okay, but we process that, then, you know. So it is choice, but at the same time, it's like, you trust your instincts and your intuition at the same time. That's my, for me, that's what it is, right? You do have your Mercury and Venus trine Pluto here. But I noticed that, I just kind of noticed that your Pluto is retrograde. So to me here, there's a sense of powerlessness that you experience when it comes to your own beliefs about yourself, your philosophy. Um, right? Traveling is also long distance traveling is kind of like, I feel kind of powerless there, right? But the powerlessness teaches us to surrender to surrendering. Surrender, because we have some of us have that belief that surrendering means like I'm giving up. No, surrendering means you're giving over. Giving over is not just a spiritual thing per se, but it's also giving over to your physical self because that is also spiritual. Everything can be spiritual. It's not just this. It's not just high up there, right? It's also down here. That's why one of my coaches, Aaron Doughty, he talks about it, and actually other people have talked about this too. You work on people say you work on your lower chakras, but really what it is, not the work, it's not the methodology. It is not really about that. You use the methodologies just like words we use, but they're not the point. The point is, am I expanding from that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, that's like my little tidbit. I'm pretty sure you pretty much have felt a lot of that. You recognize a lot of that stuff. So yeah, so shadow work is definitely good for you. So I think that's it. Um does that help you with like terms of like more physical, more practical approach, like from what I was talking about with the other things?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So okay. Oh, I totally forgot to share the screen. I totally didn't realize I didn't share the screen as I was talking about the da 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 da. But you get the point I was making anyways, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, I want to take a look at one last thing here. I want to see where your north node has progressed. Again, this is not as dominant as your birth chart. Let's see where it is now.
So these are like all possible things that I could be doing.
Yeah, remember that it's just a doing. It's more important is your being. Meaning, do you believe that do you does it resonate with you? Is this
Yeah, it does.
you do you start with I am, like is this when we start to say I am something, is just we start to identify with it, but it's not just in the words. In fact, the words are in astrology, words are tied to and talking communication tied to air, but air is lofty. We have to embrace the other elements within ourselves as they're just representations, right? We have to put it into action. That's earth. We get inspired, that's air, followed by earth, you put into action. Then we learn from that. We actually learn from experience, not from knowledge, not from information.
Yeah.
Really, it's through experience. So, and then we go through the process of what it means for us on a deeper level. It's like, how does that feel? That's water. Then the cycle renews itself. There's a rebirth from air to water to fire, which is like starting over again, rebirth process. And water in astrology often represent, or the elements themselves, classical elements represent, especially water, it represents the ending of things. And it starts again with fire. So it means what that really means. It's just you go through a cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's totally okay. So your North Node, as per is still in there, but it's now with Venus here. So there's something about it tied to your Venus. So I feel like maybe right now you're feeling called to, I don't know if you've ever felt called to do things with art, creative things, like especially like you said about the cosmetic stuff. Um, that totally makes sense. Jupiter is conjunct your Venus here, inside your North Node. So I feel like there's something to like it's something to do with what is that one? Again, the cosmetics, the yes, it's money, sensuality, shopping, um, things with beauty, things related to beauty. But remember, beauty could also be represented inside your internal beauty, right? So it could be both figurative and literal. Um, where is it right now? Your midheaven is trying. Oh, okay. It's that retrograde Uranus right there. It is. Ah, Uranus is retrograde, but it's conjunct your midheaven. It's progressed into Sagittarius. So now you're going further into, okay, that's why you felt like traveling is there. It's in the anaretic degrees of Sagittarius, so there has been a pull to that, but um maybe there's some sort of pullback with the Uranus retrograde here shows that it's like there's pullback to kind of like taking like I can say like a huge step, a revolutionary step towards your career. Or your when I say career, it doesn't necessarily mean career. It means like your mission. It means what you came here to do. So when I say what, I don't necessarily mean what. I mean how you also came here to do, right? It also explains why now it's progressed into Uranus, with Uranus here, but it's retrograde and into your 11th house, meaning that being in communities. When it progresses into your 12th house, it means that your mission is more focused on uh, digging deep into the subconscious, but also helping those like people in hospitals, prisons, that could also be that, or meditative states, or going deeper again into the subconscious. When I say deeper, it's not really deeper, it's actually out there. The reason I'm saying it's out there is because we think of the subconscious as like, oh, it's subconscious, meaning it isn't really in the brain. Physically, technically, yes. But even if we were going to tie in research with this, the what you call the brain triune, you have the reptilian brain, the limbic system, or the mammalian brain with the neocortex or the primate brain. The lizard brain is the one that's the oldest, or reptilian brain is the oldest. So if that's where the subconscious is, oldest means not just deeper, but also out there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because it's so that means you go into expansion, but it doesn't mean that it also means that you go deeper. The subconscious, it's kind of both. That's how I see it, at least. So yeah, that's why you're being drawn to that. So whatever you're into in terms of like your ancestry or your what is there? I wouldn't say ancestry here. There's something about um, um, ah something to be learned about your mother's side because you're in a Saturn here shows me that your mom was kind of you had some sort of very strange. Was she very strange and inconsistent? Very okay. So I noticed here that when you get as you got older, there's a lot of emotions in the family, wasn't there?
Yeah.
So you kind of your subconsciously you suppress that and then you went for things like I want to be more, you know, matter of fact. But now your ascendant is has changed, so it's now into Pisces. So now you kind of let that go a little bit. But the
Yeah.
thing is that now, if there's any resistance to people who get pedantic or very critical or very like, detail oriented, if there is any resistance to that, watch out for that, right? So that's what I'm saying. But yeah, your North Node here is in it's why is it still the same degree? Let me do this right. Mm, North Node hasn't moved that much, actually. But your Sun has moved into Taurus. Taurus. So you're more drawn to self-expression now, which is a good thing, but more foundational. It's more practical. You're drawn more to keeping things simple. Um, what is this one here? Where's Venus? Oh, okay. So I feel like you're definitely more you resonate more with right now. You're resonating a lot more with like, I believe you're everything that I've said earlier, it's finding in a way slightly contradicts what I'm seeing here. Right now, you're feels like you're drawn more towards, practical things, practical approach to things, right? Um, let's see. That's what I see here. So your moon is in Leo, progress into Leo. Oh, okay. Are you enjoying desserts more?
Yeah.
Like sweet things? Okay. So that means also that you let's see here. 16 degrees Leo. Ah, okay. this is okay. It's actually sextile to your Chiron and your Mars placement. So that means that you doing things, not only things that you enjoy, but things of healing and actually putting a lot of energy into healing.
Yeah.
But when you put in a lot of work, when you put in effort, when I say put effort into it, I mean like you make time for it, which for you it's happening naturally. Um, it's a lot to do with a bit of pride. It's almost like you're having more pride in yourself. You're having more creative endeavors. That could be anything, really. Um, are there points? Yeah, that means that you could, okay. Yeah. Does that make sense? That's the general
Yeah.
thing. I'm not using asteroids right now, so yeah. So that means that, but a lot of the healing that you do is probably inflammation of the mind, so to speak.
Yeah.
Inflammation of thought. It's almost like you're doing sort of like maybe it's almost like instead of overthinking, you're just kind of like, okay, well, I'll just let that be.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So releasing more and just being on the creative side. Now, Leo here is also tied to angels. So if you feel yourself kind of being called to that, that wouldn't be surprised. Mm,
Yeah,
but
I am.
you said earlier like dragons
Yeah.
or something about dragons. Okay. Um, I don't feel you called, I don't feel you being called to there's some sort of something related to witchcraft, but I noticed there's something about that because I saw earlier charms and I saw something about magic there. If you look into also, what's her name?
I feel like witchcraft is just part of it. Like
Yeah,
it's not really, I don't like the name witchcraft, but it just
yeah,
goes with energy work. I mean, you use
yes,
candles, you use herbs, you use energy.
yeah,
It just ties into everything else for me. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. Look up Mia Magic, Mia MIA, and then Jick Magic as in with a K. She does a lot of more. She honors the material rituals to help manifest beliefs within us. That includes sort of some of the letting go stuff. Some people question her methods, but she's because she's there's certain ceremonies she does, but it's not really about witchcraft for her. It's about working with the energies and trusting yourself in the process.
no,
And
it all ties in together, working with the land, working
yeah,
with, it's all
hmm
one.
hmm that's all. Yeah, yeah. And because your sun is now is progressed into Taurus, it's almost like you're expressing worth more, your self-worth more. You're working on that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Teal Swan says something about worth too. There's something about worth she talks about. You might come across that when it's time,
No, I've
but
been working on my self-worth for
okay.
years.
Yeah.
That's a huge one.
hmm Okay. So yeah. Well, I hope that helps. Give some insights. I don't know if you got any insights. It's just information really, but still. Yeah. Did you have any more questions?
No,
No? Okay. Well, I hope that helps. But let's see. If you have any more questions, let me know. So yeah, I think that's about it. I'm gonna stop the recording. Uh, cue.